Okay, so as we go into this What Sold video, we're looking back at the second half of July. We're just going to hit the highlights again like we did last week to try to get ourselves caught up on these What Sold videos. We're going to talk a lot about hard goods today, but I figured I would start with Poshmark, my Poshmark sales, because of kind of the big announcement that Poshmark did this week. I just wanted to mention it in case you missed it. I'm in a lot of Facebook groups and follow reseller Instagram accounts and things like that. And so it's the buzz. Everybody's talking about this big change that Poshmark made. So in case you don't follow those types of things, you might have missed the announcement. So the announcement is that they are actually lowering the shipping cost on Poshmark. They are going to be listing it or changing it, reducing it from $8.27 currently for £5 down to $6.49, which is good news, especially for smaller items on Posh. I think that will encourage a lot of sales. Now the catch, and that's starting September 12th, which is tomorrow. By the time you see this, it's tomorrow. So the catch is that you can no longer use priority mail packaging for your shipments for Poshmark. Now that was always such a big bonus, a big feature, because you could get free priority mail shipping supplies from the post office, and then all you have to do is print out a label and slap it on it. They were using priority mail shipping, and they had an agreement with the USPS. So they're switching to Ground Advantage, so all the labels will say Ground Advantage, okay? So you have to use either your own packaging, your own poly mailers, your own boxes, which, as you can imagine, if you're already selling on eBay or other places like that, you're probably already stocked up. If you were a Poshmark only seller, that, is causing such an uproar because nothing can change in the reselling business without there being drama, right? And so people are like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Now, Poshmark has continued to talk to the USPS, and there are actually branded Ground Advantage packaging that the post office provides. Now, they don't provide it to the general public like they do they do the priority packaging, but it's for commercial clients. And so Poshmark has made an agreement. So there is a 1-800 number that you can call to request USPS Ground Advantage supplies. I'm just reading off of their blog. I'll put a link to the blog post at the bottom. Or you can email this address. It's USPSPoshmark@victorypackaging.com. And there's things they want you to include: your name, your Poshmark closet name, your mailing address, phone number, email address. And then there's a link to the type of the packaging that they offer. It looks very similar to what they offered for priority mail, but now it's just labeled as Ground Advantage. Or you could just use your own stuff, whatever. I haven't even emailed them yet. As you can imagine, people are going nuts. And so the phone number was like overwhelmed. You can't get through. They added the email option later in the day or the next day or something like that. So I don't think people are getting like confirmation emails or anything. So we'll see what happens there. So I'm not too upset about it because Poshmark's just one of the platforms that I sell on. We did love just being able to grab boxes like that. So we'll see if this continues. There is you can read about it in the blog. There's a grace period, but you have to understand that if you put a Ground Advantage label on a priority package, your post office might reject it. So that's kind of it's a grace period, but not really. Anyway, but I think the lower shipping cost is going to be great because I think there's been some, pieces like jewelry pieces or lightweight tops and scarves that people hold off buying on Posh because of the high shipping. But now up to £5. So a pair of shoes shipping for $6, that's awesome. So sales might actually increase. And so you just have to go along with it. Okay, so let's talk about the sales. I just tried to pick the highlights. Like I said, We're starting here in Poshmark. This set of decorative copper dipper ladle things. We had these listed a long time. I don't know if they were cross-posted to Posh for a long time, but they're just kind of reproductions of like it. I don't know. It says on it like the property of the Grand Hotel in Monte Carlo, but they're made in Taiwan, so they're just reproductions and such. But $55, nothing to sneeze at for that kind of look. A few years back, anything copper was just like flying out the door, so I think that's why we picked these up. And I think the handles were bent, if I remember correctly, on these, and Mr. Pish Posh did some straightening and, got them looking better. Okay, next thing was this. This was a nice price on this Holderness and Born. I'll show you the label. It's a polo shirt, performance material polo shirt. I had picked up a handful of these at a thrift store that's in kind of a more expensive area, so I do find better brands at that thrift store. And it was the first time I had found this brand. They don't sell generally like crazy high. They're just kind of one of those brands that's like a guaranteed sell. And I sold the rest of them probably like $30, $35. So it was nice to get, I think this was my full asking price of $44 on this shirt. And I paid up a little bit, probably like $8 a shirt, which I don't normally do that. Okay, then this was a nice sale on a Titleist hat. I don't know, I was just reading something recently about the rope detail kind of being popular. This wasn't a vintage hat, just kind of had that look. It was FootJoy and Titleist, so $30 for that hat. This was a new brand to me. It's called Spring Step, and I think a lot of them are made in Italy. I hadn't really noticed this brand or paid attention to the brand before. This one's made in China, but I saw some sandals the other day. They were Spring Step and they were made in Italy. But I had noticed them at Goodwill because of the style. So I just thought they were super cute, little kind of granny boots and lace-up boots. And those sold for $46, probably like in a day or so. And as you see the next couple what sold videos as we go July into August, we kind of started to get a little more into shoes. We have shoes we had some backlogs, some free shoes that we had picked up, and we were finally getting to them. And then I think another thing that kind of got me into shoes again was the fact that Goodwill actually lowered the price on their shoes. So their pricing on their shoes had been really high. And I think one reason for that was because they used to include shoes in the half off sale. Whenever they did a once a month sale on women's clothing, they would include shoes in that sale as well. And I've heard that, I think they don't include the shoes anymore, but now the shoes are a little more reasonably priced. Like these might have been like $7.99 or something. And a lot of times I have a 20% off coupon for donating. So I've definitely been examining the shoe section a lot more. And I'm trying to just stay focused on the shoes that do not need a lot of cleaning or a lot of work, which there's a surprising amount of good condition shoes. Okay, Hotel Chocolat. These I just picked up at a thrift store. They caught my eye because they were kind of unusual looking. Hotel Chocolat, I don't know, by Andrew Wicks. I know nothing about this. They just looked interesting. So I checked comps and they seemed to be selling pretty well. And so they sold on Poshmark for $39. Then this was an item, I'll tell you, our little bins location that I've told you guys about. Not Goodwill, but just a local thrift store. But the clearance center, Mr. Pish Posh and I have been having so much fun at that place, just looking for random things. And when he comes with me, our cart is like overloaded because he gets all the guy stuff that I don't know nothing about, or I'm not willing to, like, he's the one who packages and ships. So if he wants to get some ski racks or, a bike rack for a car and wants to ship it, more power to him. I'm not going to pick those things up because he knows what he's looking at. So, but this was something I did see. I just noticed this box and it looked like it hadn't been used. And so I looked it up and it sold pretty quickly, a day or two on Posh for $30. And we're paying like, I don't know, less than $1 for hard goods at per pound at our little bin place there. Now, here's a pair of Rockies jeans. It's really the Rocky Mountain Clothing Company, but these Western style jeans are called Rockies. And they are generally mom style jeans. They call that bareback when there's no pockets on the back. Now, a couple years back, I kind of got heard about these jeans as far as being really popular and selling well online. And I was like, man, I live in Montana, so I go down to Goodwill and I found like 3 pairs. And they sold like boom, 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 like for $50 or it was crazy. So I was like, I got to keep an eye out for these jeans. And then I got a couple pairs. It's like it died. Like the trend just died. And I'm like, these have been listed for so long. Anyway, finally sold for $35. I could not be more thrilled. And here's something Mr. Pish Posh picked up at, I think, Goodwill one day. And we did have it listed for a long time, but at a much higher price. So I think either this was an offer or he dropped the price at some point. But the brand is Manfrotto. It's a backpack, but it's a camera case type thing. So $49, still a good deal for us. Now let's switch over to eBay and we're going to talk about some flatware. So I have this Reed & Barton. The pattern was actually called 1800 and these teaspoons sold for $44.99. Just got this at, my local little thrift store. And I got several pieces in this pattern. So let me tell you something about the dinner forks. So I had 8 dinner forks. Yeah, so you can see they're out of stock. Two sold. So 2 sets of 4 have sold. The first set of 4, which is this that we're looking at, sold for $35.99 and no problems. Had a wonderful transaction. The second set of 4 didn't look any different than the first set of 4. The second set of 4 sold. The person got them and said, these aren't like my other Reed & Barton 1800 dinner forks. The quality is all different. They're heavier, they're thicker, blah, blah, blah. Now that can happen. Sometimes a maker will make flatware over a long period of time, and so the quality changes over time. So sometimes you have to definitely double check your back stamp and make sure that like a buyer needs to double check that the ones that they're buying kind of match if they care about that so much. So this ended up, I was like, fine, send it back, whatever. So she sent it back. I refunded. I relisted. They sold again. The person again, second person, also had a problem. They're like, these don't match. The quality is this, da, 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 da. So, okay, the first 4 sold. Either the first person didn't care enough. I don't know. So I'm not even going to bother relisting this second set of 4. I don't know. They came back finally yesterday. And I don't know what to do with them now. What would you guys do? Should I try like 3rd time's a charm? But I don't know. All the other pieces in that set, those teaspoons, I sold knives, I sold all sorts of things, and they all are fine. Like, they sold and haven't come back, so I don't know what's going on. I really don't. Okay, so then I sold this pair of sunglasses. I had bought these a while back on a road trip, kind of forgot about them, and then I was like, oh man, it's sunglasses, it's summer, let's get them listed. And the company is Brighton. I want to say, I feel like I paid up a little bit, maybe like $10, I don't know, $10 or something like that. It was kind of a little pricey boutique thrift store in the middle of nowhere, Montana. I know, go figure, but I think I checked comps while I was there and I knew I could get a fairly good price. And so those sold for $44.99. Then, okay, so I'm going to put up a picture. I was at Goodwill one day and I came across 9 of these Le Creuset little dishes. They're small Dutch ovens. They're only like 6 inches across, but they're purple. Okay. And so when colors get retired with Le Creuset, they're very collectible. Okay. So they were priced, I think, at like $3.99 or $2.99. I can't remember. And there was 9 of them. And some of them did have, like when you open, there was utensil marks inside. But a lot of them on the bottom looked like really good. It was like they didn't get used in the oven. Maybe they just got used as bowls. So in any case, I was like, should I buy them all? And comps were hard because it's a retired color. I could find other pieces in this color, but like this one particular design. So I saw somebody had one listed like for $100 on Posh, like a new one. And I was like, well, I guess I'll take a chance. So I got all of the Le Creuset, and I think I had a coupon. So if it was $2.99, I paid $2. If it was $3.99, I paid $2.20. Whatever. I can't math right now. But you get the idea. And yeah, I have sold 6 of the 9 already. So probably future videos, I might just mention them again, but I might not show you every single one. I've sold 4 on eBay, and I sold 2 on Poshmark. And they've all ranged between like $48 to, I think one sold like $58 or $60 or something like that on Poshmark. So I think I'm doing pretty good. $9 times $50, 9 times $50, you know, I'm looking at $450. And, you know, that's before fees and all that kind of thing. But anyway, nice score that day at the Goodwill. I was kind of in shock. And another thing I was going to mention about these, I didn't do like one quantity 9 because the condition on all of them are different. And so some have utensil marks, some have little marks on the outside. So I wanted to price them kind of individually as I listed them. And I try not to list them, like we wait a few days and then we list another one. If like the first few went really fast, and then the next one I listed sat for a bit, and then I cross-posted it to Posh and it sold really fast. So when I post them too close together, my pricing is different, and so I get questioned like, well, why is this one this much and you sold it for this much, and why is it now more expensive? And anyway, I just didn't feel like dealing with those types of questions, so I just wait a few days, wait a week, list another one. Seems to be working. Okay, this was one of the items I moved over from Ruby Lane. Again, no shade to Ruby Lane because I loved it, but I need to focus my brain in just a couple platforms. And this one I did end up accepting an offer for $55. So I had this high on Ruby Lane. It's a late Victorian, possibly celluloid hair comb. The pieces up here, the faceted beads up here are amber. And those sold, I took a $55 offer. I think I mentioned that. It was a week I needed cash flow. And so I was like, you know what? This has been sitting around for a while in my house. I find that the things I'm cross-posting from Ruby Lane, because I've had them for a while, even if they're special, I have less emotional attachment to them. You know, familiarity breeds contempt and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, $55, still fine with me. Then this cracks me up. Talk about our bins location. I see these plates are melamine. They're plastic. They're from Pier 1. And there was a bunch, you know, this stack sitting there at our bins location. And, you know, I just love stuff that most people aren't going to take a second look at. So I looked them up. The name is right on the back. I don't know. There you go. Pier 1 Imports, Carmelo. So I look them up and people were selling them. Like there's different colors. There's like an aqua that it comes into. Mine were all red. And they sold within a few days for $30. So like I said, I don't pay much there at the bin. So we were happy with that. Quick flip too. This was one of my favorite mugs I have found in recent times. It's Fig Joe Flint. I'm sure there's a different way to say that. I don't know if it's Figio or if it's Fig Joe. That's always the way I've said it. But here's the thing on the bottom. A lot of info right on the bottom. It's the Vikings, Fig Joe Flint of Norway, hand-painted silkscreen, and the artist was on there, Rolf Freuland. And so I sold that for, let me get the actual selling price, $35. It says it went internationally, so I used the eBay International program, so easy peasy. Then I just wanted to share this shirt, Tommy Bahama. We do sell a lot of hard goods. I've noticed, especially in the summer, because I prefer selling like fall, winter clothing. And so we just ended up kind of stopping sourcing like summer clothing. Does that make sense? I think I sold some shorts and things like that earlier in the season. But we kind of gave our full attention more to hard goods over the summer. So now we're trying to get like jackets and sweaters and things that we've kind of gathered up over the summer listed. And I have no problem selling that type of clothing. But this was, I think, listed in the spring, and so it took a little while to sell. But it's a Tommy Bahama. It's a little bit different because it's a chambray material, but it was still the Hawaiian pattern, and it was long sleeve. So I knew that was something a little bit different about just a regular Tommy Bahama silk shirt. So we sold that one for $35.99. And then, do you guys remember this blanket? I don't expect you guys to remember everything I show in a haul video, but it was at one of those sales. It might have been the day where I was like feeling punky, as my mom would say. And it was the Life is Hard video, and we went thrifting. And I think I went to that sale at the end of the day, and everything was like $1 or something. And I found this Cradle Craft crib blanket. It made me so happy, and that sold for $44.99. And this is the first sale out of the Spice Garden Spice Jar haul that I shared in a previous video, where I paid $15 for the box, and I ended up with like 24 spice jars, and I have sold about 12. So I've gone through about half of them already. And they have varied in price. They average about $25 a piece. This one actually sold for the full $29.99 that I've been asking. There was two that I did sell for like $15 a piece because they bought two, and they had also bought some of the other ones as well. So I kind of gave them a little deal for buying two. But Parsley was the first one to sell for $29.99. So happy about that find. That was really fun. Like I said, I've been looking at shoes a little bit more at Goodwill. This pair of Cole Haans were like in really good condition. So you can see they're kind of like a driving loafer style little, the name of the style was called Shelby. Anyway, those sold overnight for $39.99. And do you guys, I don't know if you remember this one. It was my little Shirley Temple doll that I got at a yard sale for $1, maybe 50 cents. That was that lady who was doing half off everything on the very first day. And so she was in rough shape, but I knew people would still buy her for restoration. And she was old, like she was from the 30s, and she was a composition doll. I just didn't know what people would be willing to pay, so I did an auction. I think I started it at $19.99 because I wanted at least $20 for her. And there was like two bids, and it ended at $20.50. So works for me. Now let's look at a vintage necktie. Just wanted to show you this one because it's a little bit of a different style. Like I wouldn't have pegged it right away as a 1930s or 1940s necktie. Not quite the bold, bold era style that I'm used to. But I could see from the construction that it was definitely a vintage tie, and the length and all that kind of thing. It's a kind of a short tie. And anyway, it took a little bit longer because it probably didn't catch people's attention quite as much, but I did take an offer for $30 for that. Next up. Ooh, this was my best sale of the summer. Okay, this was the bag of flatware I talked about in one of my garage sale, yard sale day videos, where I like walked into this yard sale not really expecting much and was just kind of looking around. There was a few like antiques or whatever that they had advertised. And anyway, I all of a sudden turn around, there's a bag of flatware, and I can see that it's solid, right? So honestly, I was expecting like Cambridge or something like that. And I still probably would have gotten it, because that kind of, really solid flatware will do well in most brands. And you could have knocked me over when it turned out to be WMF Cromargan, which is one of my favorite flatware brands to sell. Now, when I got it home and I was researching it, I realized, okay, the pattern Sunrise, there was not many comps in the history, right? One person, like in the last 3 years, had sold some knives for like $90. And they were the only ones who all had listings up and live, and they had like, 6 forks, 6 spoons or something like that. But they weren't selling, okay? And so I was like, I guess I shouldn't divide it up. I think I'm just going to try to sell the whole lot. And then also, as I'm pulling them out of the bag, I'm like, conditions, once you get it in the strong light to take a picture, I'm like, condition's not terrible. There's no dishwasher damage or anything like that. But you can see like marks on the spoons from people's teeth and, things like that. And so I was like, all right, well, I was thinking I was going to go really high, but I thought, $500, we're going to start at $500. And I looked at WMF Cromargan sets. I looked at that pricing. These were made in Korea, so it wasn't even like it was a set made in Germany or anything like that. And I thought, I'll start at $500. And, if I got $300, like I paid $15 for all of it, right? So then I listed it and I came up the stairs and sat down and it was sold. And of course, as a reseller, what's our very first thought? Oh no, I underpriced it. But I went back through everything all again and I'm like, no, I think my price was good. And it could be that it was just the perfect price. Like maybe someone was looking for, like had a save search for like a WMF set, and it got delivered. The person was super happy. Anyway, so $500 with it for like a few minutes of work. It was a good day. All right. And then vintage underwear, undershirts, things like that. Keep an eye out for. I've talked about it before. These I think sold for, $38.99. So nothing different about that price that's showing. These were from 1986 and they were like a V-neck white t-shirt. I also wanted to share this that I picked up at a yard sale this summer. $3 I think I paid for it. But Weight Watchers, we talk about this usually around the new year as people are doing resolutions, that this is the type of thing that sells well that time of year. But I saw this binder. I did check comps while I was there. And it just had so much stuff in it. It had all these guidebooks and things like that. Plus it came with the points calculator. Some of the things were like new and tagged. So I thought, what, for $3, I'll see how I do with this. And it sold for $50. Not like I probably found it in May or June, and it sold in July. So not super fast, but not terrible either. And another one of my fun finds, this was at Goodwill. And it's kind of hard to find. So it's lustroware, it's plastic. This was for wax paper and paper towels. You hang it up on the wall. Anyway, $99.99 for that. And that's about what I was expecting to get out of it. And so that's what I got. I didn't have to wait around and take an offer or anything like that. So you can see the paper towels, white writing was a little bit more faded, but happy with that. I think I paid, I don't even know, $3.99, $4.99, $5.99. It was not like crazy. Like Goodwill just kind of priced it as something in their kitchen section. Nothing special. Then what else on eBay? Oh, so the same day I got the purple ones, they had, whoever had donated those had donated these French onion bowls in black. And I looked at comps and they were okay too. But these really were like utensil marked. And so I just was like, I think I grabbed a couple or something. And so then the best looking ones. And I brought them home and Mr. Pish Posh was like, oh, I actually like those. Like, I said, well, there was more. I think I got 4 and there was still 2 left. So anyway, he was like, I would use them, you know, I don't care with the utensil marks. He's like, I'd like to replace the soup bowls that we have, you know. So I ended up like going back to the store. I got the last couple. And so I said, let's sell 2 and then keep the rest. And we sold these 2 for $59.99. And who knows, down the line we'll probably sell the other ones, but okay, that's my active listings page. I don't know why that's on there. Let's look at Etsy. So here is another mug that I moved over from Ruby Lane. It's, if you remember a couple summers ago, I had this like Clyban cat haul at a yard sale. I paid like $2 a mug, got a bunch of mugs, and I sold a few on Ruby Lane. I sold quite a few actually over the year or whatever. They just didn't go quickly. And so as we're moving stuff out of Ruby Lane onto eBay and Etsy, a few have sold on Etsy. So this one was the Clyban cat. It's called Mouser Schmidt. Anyway, it wasn't the most common one, so it ended up selling for $28, and the person was super happy. They said it was kind of a rare one. And this was just $22, but I wanted to share it because I've sold this set twice. I've come across it and sold it twice, so just to kind of be on the lookout. Tupper toys, there's stencils. I've sold the first set on Ruby Lane for $20, this set for $22 on Etsy. Then this was something I also moved over from Ruby Lane, this Crown Trifari, but it was not listed on Ruby Lane very long. Just a nice looking set by Crown Trifari, this burgundy like lucite. I priced it up at $74. I think the earrings were not necessarily marked, but there was no place for them to be marked, and so they just match it so well that I had no problem putting them together. Then over in the pattern shop, I had quite a few pattern sales in those weeks, but they're just bread and butter, and I was trying to, it's already a long video, but we're going to just share a couple highlights. This Simplicity, this kind of a style that sells pretty easily. Men's and kids, boys' Western shirts, sold for $18. And then this one I picked up on another marketplace, and for kind of cheap. So I did a little arbitrage on the, online. I knew this one would sell pretty well on Etsy, and so I sold it for $35. Simplicity Crafts, I think I paid $9, and I might have had credit on that site, and so I didn't have to do much out of pocket, but I turned the $9 into $35. And then I just wanted to share one more sale on Ruby Lane. As you can see, congratulations to me, and thanks to my son, we are now shut down on Ruby Lane. So it's not open to the public, but I did have this sale in July of this Civil War era flatware that sold for $65. It was just forks and knives, but it had the inlay here is bone. And anyway, $65. I had it overpriced, or I had it priced high for a really long time. And finally, I can't remember if that was an offer or if I dropped the price or what happened, but move that along. Okay, so I better shut this down because it's been kind of a long video. Hopefully we'll see you again soon with another video. I'm not quite sure exactly what's coming next. But as always, leave me a comment down below about your sales, about stuff you found. I enjoyed reading the comments from the last video with those bolos, of how many of those bolos you guys have actually found yourselves. And what else? Yeah, just let me know how your reselling thing is going and what you think about the whole Poshmark change. And I will talk to you later.